Happy Monday! My name is Tanessa Shears. I'm here today to share with you what you need to know if you want to lose body fat. And the great thing about this is 90% of people don't even know this matters. And if we hang out in person or you know me, this is all I have been talking about lately. I am absolutely obsessed with this topic. It is everything I'm listening to, reading about, and I am so excited. It has been an obsession of mine over the last 8 to 12 months. And I want to share with you what you might be missing that's going to make the difference. So my job is I am a weight loss coach for women. I work one-on-one with women to help them understand what they've been missing this whole time. When it comes to fat loss, it is so much simpler than you think. And I want to share it with you. Are you ready? The one thing that most people do not pay attention to when it comes to losing body fat is their blood sugar levels. Huh? Blood sugar levels? What do you mean? What about endless hours of cardio? What about low-fat foods? What about starving myself? What about all of that stuff? No. Blood sugar. And I'm going to take you through today why you need to pay attention to this and why you need to put it on the top of your priority list when you are trying to lose body fat. All right, so I said blood sugar, and it's funny, I was talking to a client last night about this, and she said to me, why are we doing this? Why are we eating this way? I said, because the number one thing is we need to make sure you have stable blood sugar. She goes, oh, yeah, diabetes runs in my family. I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with diabetes. Like when we hear blood sugar, and we hear the words insulin, and we hear the words blood sugar fluctuations, we think about diabetes and people that are already sick that have to deal with these things. But the fact is, if you are healthy, if you are unhealthy, blood sugar is something that matters. And the reason why is because blood sugar, our levels in the body, are what are dictating how certain hormones respond. And the biggest secret is that the number one thing that is going to control your ability to lose body fat is your ability to have a stable hormone environment in the body. So yeah, it's not about how many hours of cardio you do. It's not about starving yourself. It's not about plugging your meals into MyFitnessPal and making sure you're at a 500 calorie a day deficit. It's not about that, because if your hormones are out of whack, it doesn't matter the rest of it. Sure, you'll starve yourself and you might lose your first 5 to 6 pounds, but then you're ending up in twice the mess you were in the first weight place. And these are the clients of mine that go down this route that tend to gain all their weight back. So here is where I'm going to put my foot down, and I want you to really listen to this, because this could be what you've been waiting to hear, what you've been waiting to learn that is going to move you forward. So we talked about blood sugar. So it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the level of sugar in our blood. And when we say sugar, we're not talking about table sugar. We're talking about a molecule called glucose. And glucose turns up in the blood when we eat specifically carbohydrate-based meals. So when we eat carbohydrates, they're long chains of sugars. And when they hit our digestive system, what happens is it gets broken down into small little single molecules called glucose. And naturally, when we eat meals that are higher in carbohydrate, your blood sugar is going to go up. And now before you say, oh, this must be low carb, I don't do low carb, it's not low carb, so stop letting your brain chatter and focus in here. I really want you to understand what foods are affecting your hormones, and I am going to go into that. So when you eat predominantly carbohydrate-based meals, and I'm going to be speaking in generalities, and yes, of course, there's exceptions, there's individual differences, there's other foods that create blood sugar, yes, but I want to keep it simple and actionable for you right now. So when you eat carbohydrate-based meals, your blood sugar goes up. High levels of blood sugar in the human body are toxic. Our body doesn't like it. So what it does is it has a hormone called insulin that gets released into the body. And what that does is insulin is like an usher. Its job is basically to move the blood sugar to all the different places in the body. And I'm going to go over those in a second. So insulin is not a hormone that has to do with diabetes, although it does. It has to do with healthy people, unhealthy people, lean people, people that have fat mass to lose. Insulin's job is to take care of the blood sugar levels in the body. And this is the number one hormone that is crazy out of whack in people that can't seem to lose body fat or are struggling with extra body weight, okay? So here's what's gonna happen. When you eat meals on a consistent, regular basis that are high in carbohydrates, what happens is your blood sugar continually goes up, insulin comes up to usher it away, and it comes back down. But you're consistently getting these spikes over and over again. But here is the problem. Insulin falls into a class of hormones called anabolic hormones. And what an anabolic hormone is it is a type of hormone that builds things up, whereas a catabolic hormone is something that breaks things down. So when you have insulin as a hormone that is building things up, its job is to store and to build. And what it is building is body fat. Insulin is a hormone that promotes fat storage. So here is where most of us run into problems. When the blood sugar goes up, insulin comes along, and the first place it likes to usher all of that blood sugar is number one, to the muscles for energy, right? And so we're using it as energy. Maybe we get some stored there for later. And then when the muscle fuel supply is full, it ushers it over to the liver and sees if it can allow for any storage there. But the problem is all the muscles and the liver combined in the body can only hold about 400 grams of carbohydrate. And this isn't per day, this is total. Meaning, if your stores are full, the rest of the blood sugar needs to be escorted into adipose tissue. And that might be a new word for you. Adipose tissue is a fancy word for body fat storage. You know, the stuff that we likely want to get rid of. So when the muscles are full and the liver is full, and trust me, 400 grams is not that much based on how we eat in, cultures, American culture, Canadian culture, westernized culture, all right? So what happens is insulin has only one place to usher that extra blood sugar. And what it does is it ushers it straight to body fat. When insulin is high, your body is most likely in fat storage mode. Does that make sense? The job of insulin is to tell the body, we have enough energy, let's store it here as fat. And here's where that comes into a problem. When you are trying to lose body fat and feel really good and get lean and get healthy, if you are constantly having high levels of insulin and overabundance of fuel in the body in the form of blood sugar, your body has no reason to go into body fat and get it out. So in case you didn't know, what body fat actually is it is stored energy. So you have a fat cell, and inside are little fat droplets made up of molecules called triglycerides. And these are actually stored energy forms. So when you have too much energy coming in and too much blood sugar, too much insulin, it gets stored. The only way to break down body fat is to be at an energy deficit so that your body needs more energy than you're providing it. So it goes in and takes body fat out of storage to use as energy. That's how you lose body fat. That's how you lose weight. But the problem is, if you're eating lots of heavily carbohydrate meals all throughout the day, you're getting insulin spiking up and down, and every time insulin goes up, you're storing more body fat away, and you can't access the stuff that you have stored. So I hope that really makes sense. And if I want you to watch this video 1, 2, 3 times until that makes sense, I'm going to summarize it really quick, and then I want to go over the foods that affect blood sugar the most, because I'm not really a low carb. I'd say I eat moderate to low carb, but what the main thing I want you to understand is this. When you eat a carbohydrate-based meal, blood sugar levels go up. When the body senses that blood sugar levels go up, insulin, a hormone, comes in to usher it into the muscle and liver cells. But when those get full, your body has to put all of that extra blood sugar somewhere, because remember, it's toxic to the body. So what it does is it stores it in fat tissue. And as long as insulin is high and doing its job, your body has no need to go into fat cells, take energy out, and help you lose body fat. So, you know all those times where you're like, oh, a handful of pretzels won't hurt, it's only one burger, it's only a handful of goldfish, it's only one night. No. Every time you make one of those decisions, unfortunately, you do cause insulin to go up and you block fat burning. So we need to start making smarter choices with our meals so that we can keep blood sugar as stable as possible. So now if we're looking at our foods that we have, foods run on a spectrum of the least stimulating for blood sugar changes and the most stimulating for blood sugar changes. For the majority of our meals, we want to make sure that we are eating on the end of the spectrum that has the least effect on blood sugar. All right, the least effect. So, eating foods that are healthy fats have the least effect. And I'm not talking about trans fats. They don't ever make it into my diet in any form. I'm talking about healthy fats like avocado oil, regular avocados, the fat that comes in meats, eggs, seeds, nuts. Those are great healthy fats that I love. They have very minimal effect on your blood sugar levels. Then it goes down to protein. So this can be protein found in, animal products, meats, tofus, things like that. So proteins have the second least effect. Following that, we then get into our carbohydrate sources. So we have fats and proteins, and a third group is carbohydrates. But the thing is, not all carbohydrates are the same. Some of the carbohydrates have very little effect on our blood sugar, but some of them wreak havoc on our body that we don't even know are causing us to gain and store body fat rapidly. So on that spectrum there, at the end of the carbohydrate spectrum that affects your body the least, it's going to be vegetables. Vegetables are high in fiber, they're generally water-based, they have the least effect on blood sugar. Following that are grains, and things that fall into that grain category are things like rice, quinoa, and sometimes oatmeal, depending on the individual. After that comes fruits, meaning fruits cause a higher blood sugar response than grains or vegetables. And then at the bottom of the spectrum, you actually have sugar and flour. And so if you followed along with my videos or you're part of my Facebook group, She Takes Action, you will know that sugar and flour don't make it into my diet. Why? Because they're not naturally occurring substances. They are substances that are found in natural forms out in the universe. So things like, wheat is condensed into flour, sugarcane is condensed into sugar, and these things are hyper concentrated and they have exceptional effects on blood sugar. Like, did you know that a whole grain piece of bread spikes your blood sugar and your insulin higher than a tablespoon of sugar does? I know, I can barely believe it. This is the thing. We are marketed and told that, whole grain cereals, fiber one bars, all of these, whole wheat pasta, a whole wheat bagel for breakfast. Maybe we're going to have some fruit. All of these things that we're being marketed and what we've been brought up to understand as healthy for us are actually wreaking havoc on our hormones. And then we wonder, well, I'm eating fiber one bars and I'm eating lots of fruit and I changed over to whole wheat pasta. I don't understand why my body fat's not changing. This is why. It's because you are not giving your body a chance to have a stable blood sugar. And this is what I want to share with you, is that you need to be taking into account the effects of blood sugar and how it affects insulin in terms of how you are going to lose body fat. You can't ignore this and, starve yourself skinny. It's not going to work. It's miserable. It's miserable. You cannot, deprive yourself all the way. And the thing is, this is a whole nother video, but the addiction you experience with sugar and flour are a whole separate piece. I mean, the way I see it, when you go to lose body fat, there are two sides of the puzzle, and people only ever pay attention to the one side. One side over here is going to be choices. So this is what we're talking about. Foods that, are whole and generally unprocessed, and things that don't stimulate your blood sugar. That's these foods over here. And we focus on eating those. But what we never focus on is the mindset part of it and how to deal with overcoming cravings and urges and the chatter in your brain and the belief that I've never been able to do this. Trust me, that has just as much. And that's what I work with my clients inside of my Body Smart program, is how to use your brain to overcome these things at the same time as dealing with these foods. But I did promise you where I would start if I was a beginner and I was like, nothing I'm doing is working, I'm addicted to all of these foods. What do I do? The number one thing, the first recommendation I recommend, cut out sugar and flour. And you know why I just paused there for a sec? Because I want you to listen to what just happened in your head. I'm going to say that again. Cut out sugar and flour. Most of the time when I say this to my clients, they say things like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, life's not fun. I can't do that. That's too hard. No, sometimes it's okay. I can do it in moderation. All of these chatter thoughts, this is the mindset part that I told you about. You need to learn how to be stronger than that. You need to learn how to be really uncomfortable, because here's what I say to my clients. Your response, your freak out that you just had when I told you to remove sugar and flour, that's not normal. It is not normal. You don't freak out if I said to you, no more potatoes for you because it's actually really bad for your health. I know you didn't know this, but now you know potatoes are bad for your health. You'd be like, oh my gosh, that's fine. That's fine, they're done. But what is it about sugar and flour that's so different that we freak out? Your response when we freak out about the idea of like, it's too restrictive, I'll binge. These are all chatter thoughts, and I want you to know that these thoughts aren't normal. This reaction, the size of this reaction you're having is disproportionate, and this is how you know you're experiencing an addiction to sugar and flour, and that needs to be broken. So if you are really wanting to start and you don't know where to start right now, eliminating sugar and flour will give you the biggest jump forward in managing blood sugar levels. And I mean, all of us are different. I definitely, with my clients inside the Body Smart program, I do always recommend, we need to go cold turkey, because you would never tell a smoker or a heroin addict or anyone else struggling with an addiction that, maybe they don't want to give up. You would never say to them, okay, just on Thursdays you can do it. No, you wouldn't do that, because it's an addiction, and you know that by dipping your toe back in the water over and over again, you're never actually going to be free. You need to learn what it feels like to be on the other end when these foods don't matter. If you told me no sugar for a month, I'd have the same reaction as if you said no chicken breast for a month, because they don't have that pull over me. And that is the reaction that I want from my clients when I tell them that. And so that's the process that I teach you that. But starting no sugar, no flour, break that addiction cycle at the same time as you are learning how to regulate blood sugar, because those two are having the biggest effect, sugar and flour, on getting insulin up. Insulin is a fat storage hormone, so if you can cut those out, you are already going to notice a drastic difference in your waistline. I hope that has been super helpful. If you know someone who is struggling with their body fat and they're doing hours of cardio at the gym, or maybe they're just eating the wrong foods, tag them below, and I would be so happy to get this out there, because this is changing lives. I have clients that are dropping 40 pounds, 30 pounds. I've got a client of mine who's a general physician who is obsessed with this plan. We talk about it all the time. She even took it to a conference in Hawaii over the weekend and talked with an endocrinologist, that's a hormone doctor, about these ideas that we're working through and the weight loss that she's seeing. And guess what? He was on board. And that is just showing you that doctors are moving in the direction of realizing that these low-fat foods and healthy whole grains may not be the option, and in fact, they may be what got us fat in the first place. So I encourage you, no sugar, no flour. Can you do it? This is where I would start. Start minimizing the intake of these foods that cause fluctuation in your blood sugar. And if you want one-on-one help with this, you guys, I have my program, Body Smart. It's that one-on-one coaching program that takes you step by step through this with accountability and also lessons that teach you how to deal with the mental struggle that comes with it, because that is half the battle. And if we don't address the other side of it, I'm sorry, but you're gonna struggle and fall on and off the bandwagon over and over again. So it's about bringing that together with the right support. I'll drop a link in the comments after I'm off this video, but if you guys have questions about anything we talked about today, leave them below. Tag someone that you know needs this, and if this, lit up your brain today, and you learned something new, I want you to leave a like below so that I know that this content is relevant to you. You guys have a beautiful, beautiful Monday, and I will see you next time.